Hey everyone, this is Mohit. Welcome back to my channel. In today's session, we are going to talk about RE framework in UiPath. Many people feel like it's a complex topic, but it's not. So I will explain it in a very simple and easy way. Let's start with a basic definition. UiPath RE framework, also known as Robotic Enterprise Framework, is a standard automation template in UiPath that used to build robust, scalable, and reusable RPA solutions. It is queue-based, obviously, and state machine driven, handling transactions one by one with built-in logging, retry, and exception handling that is ideally for enterprise level automations. Generally, RE framework solves common automation challenges such as handling large volumes of transactions, managing system and business exceptions, supporting retry mechanism, that's interesting, ensure standard logging, and the last, making automation easy to maintain and reusable. Moving on, now, it's very important to understand the core architecture behind, which includes the state machine based design, queue based transaction processing, and dispatcher and performer pattern. Let's go through each section one by one. In state machine design pattern or state machine based design, that is RE framework that uses a state machine where the automation moves through predefined states. Predefined states that includes init, that means initialization, get transaction data, process transaction, and end process. Whereas in queue-based transaction processing, that means RE framework works best with UiPath orchestrator queues. Each queue item is equal to one transaction, supports FIFO processing, that means first in, first out processing, enables parallel bot execution, and the last that has built-in retry and status tracking. And the last we have dispatcher and performer pattern. Dispatcher means, as we already discussed, that reads the data from files, emails, APIs or databases, that validates input data to and also pushes transaction into orchestrator queue. And the performer where that picks one queue item at a time, processing the transactions one by one, updates the status as successful or failed. Queue-based transaction processing, that is a perfect for invoice processing, finance banking, and high-volume tasks. Whereas dispatcher and performer pattern, this separation improves scalability and control. And last, we also talk about real world use cases that includes invoice processing, banking transactions, insurance claims processing, and customer service case handling. And finally, we have the exception handling mechanism, which is already taken care of by RE framework. It handles both business exception as well as system exception, ensuring the automation runs reliably and recovers from the errors smoothly. In business exception, that includes the issue with the data or business rules, whereas in system exception, that includes the issues like application crash, timeout, and selector issues. For example, in business exception, that includes invalid invoice number. In system exception, we also have a retry mechanism where the retry count is configured from orchestrator queue. RE framework also takes care of logging, which includes detailed exception logs, transaction level logs, and error logs, helping with the monitoring and troubleshooting of the automation. And the last, in business exception, transaction marked as a failed where it does not include retry mechanism. Let's see how to create a RE framework project. This time, select Robotic Enterprise Framework option, then provide the project name, description, and the project location. Finally, click Create to generate the project. This is the first look at the RE framework, which is built using a state machine. You can see four boxes here, each representing a state. In the main.xaml file, these states are initialization, get transaction data, process transaction, and end process. In UiPath RE framework, a state in the state machine represents a phase of the automation process. Each state performs a specific responsibility and then decides what should happen next based on the outcome. Lines or transitions that decide which state runs next. They connect one state to another and control the flow of the execution in the state machine. Each transition has a condition and the direction. A condition true or false, or an expression, a direction from one state to the next. We also have a start node in the ReFramework project. Before diving into each state in detail, let's first look at the folder structure. In this project, we don't require the testing dependency, so we will uninstall it like this. After that, you can also remove the test folder. Click on delete, click on yes. The test folder contains the test cases that help you verify whether individual workflows or logic in the RE framework are working as expected before running the full process. For now, we have deleted the test folder. You can also see the documentation folder here, right? Which contains reference materials related to the RE framework. We will keep this separate from the solution folder, as doing so that helps to reduce the overall package size. Go back to the project and we refresh it. Simple. Now comes to the data folder. The data folder is used to store all files that the automation reads from or writes to. It contains three subfolders that includes input, output, and temp. Input that holds files that the robot needs to read, such as Excel or CSV files. Output that stores files generated by the automation like reports or results files. And the last we have temp that used to store temporary files during execution, which can be deleted after the process completes. We usually keep these folders in a shared location such as OneDrive or SharePoint, so they are not required inside the project. Because of this, we can safely delete these folders from the project. We also have a config file located in the data folder, plays a central role in the RE framework that stores all the environment specific and process settings in one place, so you don't need to have hard coded values in the workflows. Let's open it. The main question arises what the config file is used for. It's used for storing the application settings like URLs, file paths, timeouts, example application URL, download folder path. We also have credential references stored in the config file. That means name of the credentials stored in the orchestrator. Example, orchestrator credential name. It also stores queue names and retry counts. Let's begin with the initialization phase. System exception is nothing first, no exception in the beginning. Config is nothing. That means it is the first run of the process. Init all settings workflow that reads the config file. In this, we are passing config file path. You can also change. We are passing sheet names like settings and constant. It loads the value into a config dictionary. No need to change in this workflow. And for your information, we are using Excel dependency. The version is 3.3.1 and the system activities dependency version is 25.10.4. And we are also using UI automation.activities. That version is 25.10.22. Moving further, these are not required, so we can delete them. Kill all processes, closes any already running applications. Let's open it. You can also write down the kill process and the process name. Go to the properties and check on continue on error. Go back to the main. If max consecutive system exceptions, that also not required, so we can delete them. Now init applications that opens required application like browser, desktop application, SAP, etc. Again go back. Let's look at the successful transition. If the system exception is nothing, the workflow moves to the get transaction data state. Now we will move to the get transaction data state. This is the step where the robot picks the next item to work on. It fetches one transaction at a time. Check stop signal is used to see whether the process has been manually stopped from the orchestrator and if so, to end the automation safely. Get transaction item means picking one unit of work that the robot will process right now. Please note, get transaction item retrieves a new transaction item from the queue. Go back to the main. Look at the new transaction transition. If the transaction item is not nothing, the workflow moves to the process transaction state. The process transaction state is where the robot actually does the main work for one transaction item. Now, let's look at the no data transition. If the transaction item is nothing, then the workflow moves to the end process state. The end process state is the final step of the RE framework where the robot finishes everything. I hope you find this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support really keeps me motivated to create more awesome videos. Thank you, everyone.